Chapter 1 Lin Chen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a small wooden house. Hiss. Lin Chen took a breath of cold air, and there was a sharp pain in his head, as if he had just been hit by a club. He wanted to open his eyes, but his eyelids felt as heavy as a mountain. What's going on? I was just practicing boxing. Did someone attack me secretly? Suddenly, a lot of complicated and chaotic memories came out from the depths of his mind. Lin Chen was slightly dazed, and his mind was like a mess of paste, dizzy. More than 20 years of hard practice in martial arts have made Lin Chen's will strong. Otherwise, under such severe pain and confusion, ordinary people would have fainted long ago. It felt like several decades had passed, and it seemed like only a moment had passed. The memories in Lin Chen's mind slowly calmed down. Lin Chen felt the sudden increase in memories in his mind. He was a little unbelievable that he had traveled from modern society to another world. I didn't expect that this guy was also called Lin Chen. Lin Chen was surprised. This is a world where martial arts are respected. His predecessor relied on family connections to enter Tianji Sect, one of the largest sects in Yannan Territory, and became an outer disciple, practicing diligently every day. Unfortunately, Lin Chen's previous life had average martial arts talent. He practiced from the age of 6 to 15, a full 9 years, and only practiced from the early stage of the first level of the body refining realm to the late stage of the fourth level of the body refining realm. Although his talent was average, Lin Chen did not give up or relax at all, especially in the more than a year after he joined the Tianji Sect. He practiced more diligently, determined to be promoted to an inner disciple and climb to a higher level of martial arts. 3 days ago, when Lin Chen received the 2 bottles of Peiyuan liquid that the sect distributed to outer disciples every month, he encountered a group of disciples who bullied the weak and asked Lin Chen to hand over a bottle of Peiyuan liquid. Lin Chen was unwilling to hand over the Peiyuan liquid and had a dispute with the other party. Originally, Lin Chen's strength was also relatively low among the outer disciples, not to mention that the other party had more people. In the end, he dragged his seriously injured body back to his residence and took healing medicine. 3 days later, Lin Chen's external injuries were not serious, but he was hit on the head with a club and was drowsy all the time. In the end, for some reason, the modern Lin Chen came here and occupied this body. After sorting out his memories, Lin Chen shook his head slightly. My predecessor was a determined guy, but a little pedantic. Don't worry, I will definitely avenge you. As soon as he finished speaking, a trace of memory in the depths of his mind attracted his attention. After carefully feeling it, Lin Chen's brows could not help but frown. The family rules require that if you have not become an inner disciple before the age of 17, you must return to the family and manage the family's business. Lin Chen frowned even deeper. Lin Chen's predecessor was the illegitimate son of the Zhao family, one of the 3 major families in Lingwu City. Although his talent and qualifications were very ordinary, his father still used his connections to send him to the Tianji Sect. The outstanding talents of the younger generation of the family also joined the major sects in Yannan Territory. In Lin Chen's memory, Zhao Xiong and Zhao Shui, who had the best qualifications, joined the Tianling Sect and Sanglong Valley in Yannan Territory respectively. When they met at the annual festival half a year ago, they were both at the initial stage of the 8th level of the body refining realm, which was many times stronger than Lin Chen. With their qualifications, it was easy to become an inner disciple, but Lin Chen was different. His talent and qualifications were all average. Although he worked hard, the requirements for inner disciples of Tianji Sect were quite high. It was not an easy thing for the original Lin Chen to be promoted to an inner disciple before the age of 17. There were countless disciples in Tianji Sect. If an outer disciple wanted to become an inner disciple, in addition to reaching the Tiangang realm before the age of 20, there was only one way, to enter the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. If successful, he would enter the inner gate. If he failed, he could only wait for the next opening of the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. However, the Tianluo Mountain secret realm was not something that could be entered just by wanting to. For outer disciples under the age of 16, 500 contribution points were needed to exchange for a chance to enter the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. For those over 16, 1,000 contribution points were needed. After the age of 17, every year of age increased, 500 more contribution points were needed. Lin Chen's predecessor joined Tianji Sect for a year and a half. In addition to the necessary practice, he was trying to earn contribution points every day. So far, he has only collected 133 contribution points, which is 367 points short of the 500 contribution points required to exchange for a chance to enter the Tianluo Mountain Secret Realm. Lin Chen was originally quite honest in handing over a bottle of Peiyuan liquid. The reason why he refused to give it to those people this time was because he would soon be 16 years old. If he could not earn 500 contribution points this year, he would need a full 1,000 contribution points to exchange for the chance to enter the Tianluo Mountain Secret Realm next year. So he wanted to take 2 bottles of Peiyuan liquid to improve his cultivation, so that he could earn more contribution points and get the chance to enter the Tianluo Mountain Secret Realm this year. Lin Chen integrated the memories of his predecessor and naturally understood his predecessor's thoughts. Although Lin Chen's talent was average, he was very obsessed with martial arts. After entering Tianji Sect, he practiced hard with one heart and soul, wanting to be promoted to an inner disciple and pursue a more powerful martial arts path. I didn't expect that this guy's personality is somewhat similar to mine. In his previous life, Lin Chen was a famous young martial arts master in Shenzhou, a master of internal martial arts. His obsession with martial arts made him reach a peak, and he wanted to break through but had no chance. Now that he has come to such a world where martial arts are supreme, how can Lin Chen not be excited? Only in this place can he show his skills. Chapter 2 Mysterious Little Cauldron. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In Tianji Sect, you can pursue martial arts wholeheartedly. When you return to the family to take care of business, you have to deal with all kinds of tedious things, which is definitely not conducive to practice. What's more, Tianji Sect is also located on a spiritual line, heaven and earth. The spiritual energy is extremely rich, making it easier to practice with less effort, but there are very few places with such extremely rich spiritual energy outside. Although Lin Chen is not yet 17 years old, there are only 2 years left. If he does not get the opportunity to enter the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain this year, next year will be even more difficult. If you fail to succeed in 2 years, you will have to follow the family's arrangements and become a minor deacon outside the family. In this case, it will be very difficult to pursue martial arts. Lin Chen didn't want to accept this situation before, and Lin Chen now doesn't even want to see it. It seems that the top priority is to earn 500 contribution points as soon as possible. Lin Chen said to himself, my predecessor spent a year and a half and could not raise 150 contribution points, so he still risked his own life. Earned by entering the Malian Mountains to hunt monsters despite the danger. If you want to quickly raise enough contribution points, you can only go to the sect to receive a mission and enter the Malian Mountains to hunt high-level monsters. There are still 3 months before entering the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain. In other words, in the next 3 months, I must improve my strength as soon as possible, hunt down high-level monsters to obtain contribution points, and then break through the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain. Thinking of this, Lin Chen took a deep breath, his eyes a little excited. In his previous life, he had been practicing martial arts for more than 20 years and had been thinking about how to cultivate the true energy in his body. However, the spiritual energy in the world was so thin that it was not suitable for cultivating true energy at all, and he was unable to reach the peak of martial arts. As for the Tianling Continent, the aura of heaven and earth is many times richer than in the previous life. It is so powerful that it can turn mountains into clouds and move mountains and fill seas with countless techniques. In my last life, I was able to become a martial arts master in the land of China where spiritual energy was thin. In this life, Tianling Continent has sufficient spiritual energy. Then, I can also become the pinnacle of Tianling Continent. Lin Chen's eyes shone with confidence, shining brightly. He closed his eyes slightly and felt the strands of true energy in his dantian, feeling extremely excited. However, at this moment, there was a sudden buzzing sound in his head, which made him feel a little dazed for a moment. Lin Chen closed his eyes and looked inside, only to see in the depths of his mind a golden 3-legged small cauldron floating in the air. A faint mist emitted from the cauldron slowly spread and enveloped the entire brain, as if the world was covered by the mist. Covered generally. Why is this little cauldron in my mind? Looking at the little cauldron in his mind, Lin Chen was extremely surprised. Lin Chen was no stranger to the small tripod floating in his mind. It was an ornament he wore close to his body in his previous life, and it was an ancestral item. When Lin Chen was practicing boxing, he wore this small cauldron, which had a calming effect, but why did this little tripod follow him through time and space and merge into his mind? The mist spread more and more, becoming more and more mellow. After a while, it was absorbed into the brain little by little. With every bit absorbed, the brain expanded a little. Lin Chen opened his eyes and felt refreshed for a moment. His eyes were like stars. Everything in front of him became clearer and his ears became smarter. Even the subtle sounds far away could be heard at this moment. Hear it as clearly as close to your ears. His mind changed from the previous confusion and became more agile, extremely brisk, and his perception became sharper. This little tripod seems to be very helpful to me. Lin Chen didn't know the history of this three-legged tripod in his previous life. He didn't know which generation of his ancestors it was passed down to him. Because it was very helpful for practicing boxing, Lin Chen always wore it close to his body. At this moment, the mist emitted by the three-legged cauldron was nourishing Lin Chen's brain, and the benefits it brought were indescribable. After pondering for a while, he still couldn't figure out what was going on. Lin Chen simply stopped thinking about it, got out of bed, washed himself, and came to the yard with his sword in hand. In 3 months, I will enter the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain. I must improve my strength as soon as possible. In Lin Chen's memory, there are many realms in martial arts, among which the body refining realm is the best period to lay the foundation. It is divided into 9 levels. The first level is skin refining, the second level is flesh refining, the third level is muscle refining, the fourth level is bone refining, and the fifth level is marrow refining. The sixth level is blood refining, the seventh level is organ refining, the eighth level is essence refining, and the ninth level is qi refining. After the body refining realm, there is the Tiangang realm. In the yard, Lin Chen stood with a sword in his hand and said to himself, my predecessor has been practicing the 7-star chain sword since he entered the Tianji Sect, and has learned the 1st to 6th moves, but he is stuck on the 7th move. It's never been done. This 7-star chain sword is divided into 7 styles. When the 7-style sword moves are executed, they are continuous and perfect. When practiced, they can release meter-long sword energy, which is extremely powerful. In my memory, there was a disciple who relied on the 7 stars. The powerful sword energy released by the chain sword can defeat people with 2 lower realms. The reason why the predecessor joined Tianji Sect has been practicing the 7-star chain sword, just to master the 7-star chain sword and then break through. Tianluo Mountain Secret Realm. Lin Chen shook his head slightly. Most of the people who entered the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain are outer disciples at the 8th and 9th levels of the body refining realm. This 7-star chain sword may not be enough to cope with them. Lin Chen closed his eyes, and the diagram of how to use the 7-star chain sword flashed through his mind. After a moment, his eyes suddenly opened, and the stainless steel sword in his hand thrust out diagonally. He used the first move of the 7-star chain sword, and different from the obscure and lame ones in the past, this time it was performed with nimble movements and a natural feeling. It's like everything comes naturally. Laugh. A fallen leaf passed by and was split in half by the fine steel sword, making a slight sound. Lin Chen seemed to have heard nothing and continued to perform the 7-star chain sword. The first move, the second move, the third move, the 6th move, the 7th move. Gradually, the 7-star chain sword performed by Lin Chen broke free from the restraints, and the movements became faster and more flexible, as if he knew this sword technique by heart and had practiced it hundreds or thousands of times. When the 7-star chain sword was performed to the 7th move, a sword energy nearly 1 meter long rushed out from the fine steel sword and hit a huge stone weighing 100 pounds, boom. The huge stone exploded. I have finally mastered it. Chapter 3 Provocation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sheathing the sword and standing there, Lin Chen's eyes flashed with joy, and at the same time he was a little unbelievable. The seventh form of the seven-star chain sword that my predecessor has never been able to practice, I just practiced it once, and I can practice it so easily. Without thinking too much, Lin Chen started practicing again, and his sword moves became more and more skillful and smooth. However, he didn't realize that when he was practicing the seven-star sword, his body heated up suddenly, and the spiritual energy in the surrounding heaven and earth seemed to have found a like a vent. It crazily penetrated into his body, bang bang bang. A sound like fried beans rang out, waking up Lin Chen, who was intoxicated in sword practice. The peak of the fourth level of the body refining realm, and the cultivation level has also broken through. Lin Chen was stunned for a moment, and then he became overjoyed. When he was practicing his sword, his cultivation level actually broke through from the late fourth level of the body refining realm to the third level of the body refining realm. The fourth level of peak, normally, it would take at least 5 or 6 weeks for him to improve his cultivation by one level. Even if you use Peiyuan liquid, Lingyuan pills, etc. to assist in practicing elixirs, it will take 3 or 4 weeks before it is possible to improve your cultivation level by one level. This time, Lin Chen was practicing swordsmanship and easily achieved breakthroughs in cultivation. Compared with before, his training speed was many times faster. Lin Chen took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement in his heart, closed his eyes and looked inside, but he saw that the infuriating energy in his dantian, which was originally only strands, had increased a lot. More importantly, the aura was stable and not as strong as like ordinary warriors. They still need to stabilize after breaking through. The muscles and bones throughout the body are extremely hard, reaching the limit of bone refining. The fourth level of bone refining in the body refining realm has been completed. The next step is to advance to the fifth level, the marrow refining realm. However, my cultivation level has just broken through. It is not appropriate to practice forcefully. Otherwise, it will not only be useless to the body, but also harmful. Lin Chen opened his eyes, pondered for a moment, and then said to himself with a faint smile on his face, "You can't practice qi, but you can still practice martial arts. I just practiced the seven-star chain sword, and I easily broke through the bottleneck and used the seventh posture. After practicing it, the sword energy can explode 100 kilograms of stone. If I remember correctly, there are many powerful martial arts in the library at the outer gate of Tianji Sect. I will go and take a look now. Maybe I will gain something." Thinking of this, Lin Chen couldn't help but feel a little itchy. After a quick lunch, he picked up his sword and headed towards the library halfway up the mountain. The library is located halfway up the mountain, in a green land. There were crowds of people at the entrance of the library, some of whom had selected secret books from the library, and some who were about to go to the library to borrow secret books like Lin Chen. Lin Chen glanced at the majestic and huge library attic with some excitement, and was about to go in when a cold voice came from behind him. "Lin Chen, stop!" Lin Chen was slightly startled, stopped and looked around, and saw 3 young people walking out of the path beside him. The first one was a sinister young man who was staring at Lin Chen, with a gloomy look between his eyebrows. "You actually broke through?" In this moment, the 3 young men of Yin Prey came to Lin Chen. The 3 of them felt Lin Chen's aura and were suddenly surprised. This kid was clearly at the late stage of the 4th level of the body refining realm 3 days ago, but today he has become the peak of the 4th level of the body refining realm. The 3 of them looked at each other. You must know that Lin Chen reached the late stage of the 4th level of the body refining realm a month ago. In just 1 month, it was good that he could stabilize his cultivation. Unexpectedly, he broke through and reached the peak of the 4th level of the body refining realm. Humph, it's just a lucky break. With his qualifications, even if he breaks through in cultivation, he won't be much stronger. Seeing Lin Chen's indifferent expression, the sinister young man felt quite unhappy. He snorted and said in a low voice, "Lin Chen, you should know why we are looking for you today. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you here." Lin Chen's eyes turned cold, but he quickly recovered and said with a normal expression, "I'm not interested in knowing what you are looking for me for. I only know that if a good dog doesn't block the way, you now get out of my way and I can forgive you one more time. If Lin Chen remembers correctly, the three sinister young men were the same three who injured his predecessor and stole the essence-building liquid a few days ago. The sinister young man's name was Li Chuan, and the other two were his two outer disciples. In his memory, Li Chuan relied on the support of his brother who was an inner disciple, and often looted the essence-building liquid of some outer disciples who had no background and power. If anyone dared not hand over the essence-building liquid, he would be severely beaten. Without saying a word, he would have to pay double compensation afterwards. This time Li Chuan blocked his way, so he must have come to collect compensation. However, Lin Chen had the courage to refuse in the past, let alone Lin Chen now. When Li Chuan and the others heard Lin Chen's words, they were immediately furious. The two followers even angrily stepped forward to teach Lin Chen a lesson, but Li Chuan stretched out his hand to stop them. He took a deep breath and said with an angry smile, "I really didn't expect that I was treated with admiration by Shibi for 3 days. Lin Chen, you are really capable, you actually dare to challenge me. It just so happens that you have made a breakthrough in cultivation. Today I, Li Chuan, will spar with you. If you resist my 3 moves, I will never trouble you again. But if you fail to resist, then kneel down and beg for mercy." From now on they all handed over the Pei-Yuan liquid honestly, and not 1 bottle, but 2 bottles. Li Chuan looked at Lin Chen jokingly. His cultivation level was 2 levels higher than Lin Chen's. He was in the middle stage of the 5th level of the body refining realm. He had just perfected the bone-crushing claw. Not to mention 3 moves, he was confident of 1 move. Just defeat Lin Chen. Chapter 4 7-Star Chain Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Chen glanced at Li Chuan and sneered, "The pills given to me by the sect are originally mine. Who do you think is the elder? Why should I give them to you? In addition, I say it again, disappear from me immediately. Otherwise don't blame me for being rude." Okay. Li Chuan was furious, his face turned ashen. "Boy, you have successfully angered me. If I don't beat you to bed today for 3 months, I will write your name upside down." As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Li Chuan move his body, took a step forward, and suddenly grabbed Lin Chen with his claws. It's the bone-crushing claw. Yellow level intermediate martial arts. One of Li Chuan's followers shouted excitedly, "Lin Chen, you are in trouble." Lin Chen pulled back and frowned, "Since you are seeking death, I will give you a ride." Although the opponent's cultivation level was higher than Lin Chen's, Lin Chen was a martial arts master in his previous life and had no fear at all when facing Li Chuan. Choke. The sword is unsheathed. What's going on? Li Chuan felt something was wrong for the first time. The moment Lin Chen drew his sword, the momentum he exuded gave Li Chuan a sense of oppression that he had never felt before. Seeing Li Chuan stunned, Lin Chen said calmly, "If you know you're scared, just get out of my way. I don't have time to waste with you here. You wanna die?" Li Chuan was furious, roared, and leaned forward, 1 claw from bottom to top, and the other from bottom to top, grabbing Lin Chen hard in a direction that ordinary people could not do. Li Chuan's bone-crushing claws displayed a mighty force and strong winds. If it were any other disciple, they would definitely not be able to withstand Li Chuan's attack. They might even be knocked to the ground by 1 claw and be seriously injured on the spot. However, unfortunately, he met Lin Chen. Just when Li Chuan's claws were about to attack Lin Chen's body moved. The fine steel sword in his hand flashed a white light, and the fine steel sword shot out a sword energy nearly 1 meter long. He struck hard at Li Chuan beside the sword. It was the 7th style of the 7-star chain sword that Lin Chen had just learned. Boom! Ah! A scream rang out, and a long blood mark appeared on Li Chuan's chest. His body flew backwards and hit the stone steps not far away, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. His face was extremely pale. When Li Chuan's 2 followers saw this, they were stunned. Their eyes widened in disbelief and they looked at Lin Chen dumbfounded. What kind of martial arts did Lin Chen use? He actually hit Brother Fei Chuan with one move. The two of them were stunned and forgot to help Li Chuan. No wonder they were like this. In their impression, Lin Chen had always had average qualifications and average strength, but he practiced extremely hard, let alone defeated a person in the body refining realm. A disciple in the middle stage of the 5th level, even a disciple with the same level of cultivation as him, may not be able to win, but at this moment, Lin Chen knocked Li Chuan, who was 2 levels higher than him, into the air with just one move. Ignoring the surprise of the two men, Lin Chen raised his hand and put the stainless steel sword into its scabbard with a choking sound. The crisp voice immediately woke up the two followers from their shock. They looked at Lin Chen in fear, and hurried to Li Chuan's side, helping him up. Bastard, bastard! Lin Chen, you despicable villain, how dare you attack me? Li Chuan, who had just recovered his breath, was helped up, and he immediately cursed, his face extremely angry. In his opinion, if it weren't for Lin Chen, he suddenly made a sneak attack on himself. How could he be knocked away by a disciple with a lower cultivation level than himself? And you two idiots! Seeing the two followers beside him looking frightened towards Lin Chen, Li Chuan became even more angry and growled, why don't you hurry up and kill me? Li Chuan grinned again. The long sword mark on his chest was full of blood and painful. It seemed that he would not be able to recover for a while, which made him even more angry. Brother Chuan, that guy's cultivation level is 2 levels lower than yours, but you are no match for him. In my opinion, we should go back to find senior brother Li Shan, and then come to him again. After listening to Li Chuan's words, one of them he persuaded with some fear, but before he could say the last word, he was interrupted by Li Chuan's roar. Get out of here! Li Chuan's lips trembled with anger. The two of them were excited, but Wei Ruoruo walked towards Lin Chen reluctantly. Regardless of whether Li Chuan was careless just now, he was defeated by Lin Chen after all. Especially when you know that Lin Chen is 2 levels lower than Li Chuan in cultivation. He can, even if he defeats a person who is 2 levels higher than himself in cultivation level, his strength will not be any lower. As for the two of them, their cultivation is only at the early stage of the 5th level of the body refining realm, and their strength is not even close to that of Li Chuan. How can they be Lin Chen's opponent? Ha! Seeing the two followers coming over, Lin Chen snorted coldly and looked over with cold eyes. The two men's bodies trembled, and their hearts were raised, fearing that Lin Chen would suddenly draw his sword and release the strange but extremely powerful sword energy at them. For a moment, the atmosphere on the field was full of gunpowder and solemn, as if a fight would break out in the next moment. However, at this moment, an old man wearing a white Taoist robe suddenly walked out of the library and looked at Lin Chen and the others with an ugly expression. You dare to fight with each other at the door of the library, how brave you are! Li Chuan and the others turned to look at the old man in white Taoist robes, and their expressions suddenly changed. Chapter 5, Getting the Hang of It. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What a powerful aura! I don't know what level this old man's cultivation has reached. Lin Chen glanced at the old man in white Taoist robes, and his heart trembled. If I face him now, I'm afraid I won't be able to fight back. That when Li Chuan's two followers saw the old man in white robes appearing, their expressions changed and they breathed a sigh of relief, looking much more relaxed. The old man in white robe is the elder guarding the library. His strength is unfathomable and his status in the Tianji Sect is not low. They dare not deal with Lin Chen in front of the old man. Of course, for the two of them, it was equivalent to avoiding a violent beating. However, when Li Chuan, who was looking furious not far away, saw the old man in white robes, his eyes rolled around. He changed his look of surprise before, and cried out with runny nose and tears, "Elder, that Lin Chen, don't care. Because of my fellow disciples, they are cruel to me and even want to kill my disciple here. The sword marks on my disciple's chest can prove it, as can Wang Lin and Li Liang. I beg the elder to make the decision. Are you ruthless enough to do it yourself? Any evidence?" Lin Chen sneered. This is really shameful for Li Chuan. He was clearly the provocateur before, but now he is claiming that he murdered his fellow disciples. The two followers of Li Chuan on the side heard this. They were stunned for a moment and then a look of realization flashed in their eyes. One of them laughed evilly and shouted, "Elder, disciple Wang Lin can testify that it is brother Chuan who was injured by Lin Chen." "Yes, yes, disciple Li Liang can also testify. If Wang Lin and I hadn't tried our best to stop him just now, I'm afraid brother Chuan would have been killed here by Lin Chen." "Is this serious?" After listening to the words of Li Chuan and the others, the white-robed old man's face darkened. The Tianji Sect's rules clearly stated that disciples are not allowed to kill each other, but now there are actually disciples who know the law and break it. This is simply audacious. Back to the elder, it was Li Chuan and the other two who provoked this matter first, and Li Chuan was the one who made the first move. The disciple was just protecting himself. "The reason why I injured Li Chuan was because I had just learned the 7-star chain sword and did not control the strength. When I drew the sword, I accidentally injured him." Lin Chen bowed slightly and said without changing his expression. "You're lying. Elder, Lin Chen's words can't be trusted." Before, he took advantage of his disciples not paying attention and suddenly released a nearly 1-meter-long sword energy. He didn't control the strength. "I think it was intentional." Li Chuan heard this. Immediately shouted in retort. Suddenly released a 1-meter-long sword energy. After listening to the two people's words, the old man in white robe did not yell at Lin Chen as Li Chuan expected, but instead looked a little surprised. "Lin Chen, you really used the 7-star chain sword. Have you achieved success in cultivation?" Lin Chen nodded. "I just finished practicing." "Practice it for me again." There was a hint of impatience in the tone of the old man in white robe. "Yes." Lin Chen smiled indifferently, and with a clang, the stainless steel sword came out of its sheath. He immediately took a step forward, holding the sword in his right hand and thrust it out diagonally. In an instant, sword lights were everywhere in the field. When the 7th move was reached, a sword energy nearly 1 meter long shot out from the fine steel sword, soaring straight into the sky, startling Li Chuan and the others. Sheathing the sword and standing there, Lin Chen's expression remained unchanged, as if he had never moved. "Huh, okay, that's really surprising. Although this sword technique is only at the middle level of the yellow level, it is no less difficult to practice than the top-level martial arts of the yellow level. No one has mastered the 7th form in several years. I didn't expect to be practiced by you. It's done." Seeing this, the old man in white robe burst out laughing. His joy was beyond words. He nodded appreciatively and said, "Those who can practice this 7th form are all extremely talented people. You, a little guy, used to have mediocre talent, but you didn't expect that you have accumulated a lot of experience and suddenly enlightened. It seems to be a good seedling. If you have any questions in the future, feel free to come to me." "Thank you, elder. This disciple must remember the elder's teachings." Lin Chen nodded humbly and then said, "Elder, I have something to report." "Well, if you have anything to say, just say it." The old man in white robe nodded and glanced at Li Chuan casually. When he saw Li Chuan's panic, he snorted and started to worry. A few days ago, when the disciple was receiving the essence-building liquid distributed by the sect, Li Chuan and others plotted against him and robbed the disciple of the essence-building liquid. Originally, I wanted to be merciful and spare him, but they were aggressive and framed me. Disciple, I hope the elders will make the decision. Lin Chen paused and said calmly. "You're talking nonsense." As soon as Lin Chen finished speaking, Li Chuan roared angrily. "Shut up." The white-robed old man's face darkened and he shouted. Li Chuan's body trembled and he almost fell to his knees. This old man in white robe is the elder of the Tianji Sect's library. His cultivation is profound, at least above the Tiangang realm. If he gets angry, his momentum alone will not be the same as Li Chuan's. A warrior at the 5th level of the body refining realm can withstand it. When the old man in white robe saw Li Chuan's cowardly look, his face became even more ugly. He snorted coldly and said with some hatred, "Li Chuan, how long do you want to hide it? Brother, I know my mistake." After hearing the words of the old man in white robe, Li Chuan's face suddenly became paler, and he knelt on the ground and said tremblingly. "Humph, the three of you attacked and framed a fellow disciple. According to the rules of the sect, you should go to the execution hall to receive the punishment of 100 black iron rods. However, I understand that you are the first offenders, so I will punish the three of you with 300 inferior products. Do you accept the spiritual stone as compensation to Lin Chen?" The old man in white robe snorted with an ugly expression. Chapter 6, Library. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing this, the faces of Li Chuan and the other two people suddenly turned extremely pale. Lingshi is a stone that contains rich spiritual energy. It can be used for trading and cultivation. It can be divided into low-grade, medium-grade, high-grade and top-grade. Tianji Sect disciples usually obtain spiritual stones from doing sect tasks, and 300 low-grade spiritual stones can allow outer disciples to complete tasks for several months, which makes Li Chuan and the other three feel pain. Disciple just needs some spiritual stones to buy elixirs. I have no objection. Lin Chen nodded immediately when he saw the old man in white robe looking at him, because Lin Chen's predecessor was struggling to earn contribution points. He only had dozens of low-grade spiritual stones on his body, which were not enough to buy elixirs. It happened that Lin Chen was in urgent need of elixirs to assist in training and improve his cultivation. Now the elder of the guardian punishes Li Chuan. Lin Chen would naturally not have any objection to compensation of 300 yuan of low-grade spiritual stones to himself. After hearing Lin Chen's words, Li Chuan's mouth twitched fiercely, his eyes darkened, and he almost fainted. He glared at Lin Chen with eyes full of hatred, gritted his teeth and said, "Disciple is punished." Then he took out a simple ring from his arms and handed it to Lin Chen unwillingly. This ring, named Huanna ring, has a secret method engraved on it. There is a cubic meter of space in it. The storage space inside is too small. It is extremely simple to make and is not very precious. Many outer disciples have spares. Lin Chen took it and scanned it with his consciousness. When he saw exactly 300 low-grade spiritual stones inside, he nodded slightly. Seeing this situation, Li Chuan couldn't help but glared at Lin Chen bitterly. After bowing to the white-robed old man, the three of them supported each other and walked away unwillingly. As soon as Li Chuan and the others left, they saw two outer disciples, aged 16 or 17, walking out of the library, talking to each other in low voices. "Brother Wang, I heard that you did a sect mission a few days ago and earned more than 30 contribution points." A tall and thin disciple said with envy. I was lucky too. If it weren't for senior brother Tian to take care of me, I wouldn't have been able to complete that task." "Hey, brother Zhu, you are 16 years old this year, and you should have collected enough to redeem the 1,000 contribution points for entering the Tianluo Mountain secret realm. Right?" Senior brother Wang said with a loud laugh. "Up to now, I have collected less than 500 contribution points, and I am still far away from 1,000 contribution points. Brother Wang, on the other hand, should have almost 1,000 contribution points now. With Brother Wang's strength, he has broken through the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain. It's not a problem at all. When Brother Wang enters the inner gate, I hope you will take more care of your junior brother." The disciple surnamed Zhu said sadly and somewhat fawningly. "It's easy to talk about. You have helped me a lot during this time. As long as I enter the inner gate, I will not refuse your help if I can." The two of them spoke in a reserved tone, and suddenly saw the old man in white robe next to Lin Chen. He looked stern and said respectfully, "Disciple Wang Yifan pays homage to the elder." Disciple Zhu Feng pays homage to the elder. That the two looked respectful and respectful. They seemed to be in awe of the old man in white robes. At the same time, they looked at Lin Chen a few times. They were obviously very puzzled as to how an outer disciple at the 4th level of the body refining realm could guard the library. Elders walked together. "Well, go ahead." The old man in white robe nodded lightly. "Disciple, please leave." The two of them bowed out with respectful expressions. After taking a deep look at Lin Chen, they headed off into the distance together. Lin Chen has been standing next to the old man in white robe, motionless, but his expression is a bit silent. There are only 3 months to break into the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain, and my contribution points are less than 150, and I am far away from redeeming one time to break into Tianluo Mountain. The 500 contribution points of the mountain secret realm opportunity are still less than half. Thinking of this, Lin Chen clenched his fist hard and fixed his gaze on the library behind the white-robed old man. He must improve his strength as soon as possible and earn contribution points. Lin Chen, it's still difficult for you to break through the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain just by relying on the 7-star sword. You came here this time to choose martial arts secrets from the library, right? The old man in white robe noticed Lin Chen's change, and suddenly said. Yes, the disciple thinks so too, so he wants to go to the library pavilion to choose martial arts suitable for him to improve his strength. Yeah. However, outer disciples can only choose low-level and intermediate yellow-level martial arts. Yellow-level high-level, top-level, and earth-level low-level martial arts require 500, 800, and 1,200 contribution points respectively. Do you want to redeem martial arts, or choose low-level yellow-level martial arts, or mid-level martial arts? The old man in white robe said with a smile, can contribution points be exchanged for martial arts? He is still trying to find a way to raise 500 contribution points to exchange for the opportunity to enter the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain. Where can he find the extra points to exchange for martial arts? Lin Chen took a deep breath, smiled bitterly and said, disciple chooses the yellow-level intermediate martial arts. Oh, that's fine. There are many powerful yellow-level intermediate martial arts. Come with me. The old man in white robe was stunned for a moment, and then he understood that Lin Chen might not have any extra points to contribute, so he nodded towards the library. Go, the first floor of the library. Spirit Snake Fist, a yellow-level intermediate martial arts skill. Once you have mastered it, your fists can be as agile as a snake, and your attacks are weird and elusive. Between the 3rd and 4th rows of bookshelves, Lin Chen held a 10-number book in his hands. He frowned and said, this spiritual snake fist attack method is not suitable for me. Give up. Fire Wind Palm, a yellow-level intermediate martial arts skill. Once practiced to perfection, you can strike out hot waves and strong winds with one palm, which is unparalleled in power. Qingyun Step, a yellow-level intermediate movement technique. Chapter 7 Phantom Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Half an hour later, Lin Chen raised his head and glanced at the dozen books on the ground, his eyes slightly burning. These dozen martial arts books were carefully selected by him. Once any martial arts is cultivated to perfection, it will be extremely powerful. Although Lin Chen wanted to borrow all these books, he also knew that he would not be able to chew too much. Moreover, the sect did not allow him to borrow so many books at one time. Lin Chen took a deep breath and looked at a book of more than 20 pages in his right hand. He thought to himself, my inner strength is the family's internal skills, the high-level Qingming Xianyang Gong of the yellow grade, which does not need to be replaced for the time being. For the body movement martial arts, I will choose Qingyun Step. When Qingyun Step is practiced to perfection, it can advance 100 meters in one sweep. It is very good among the middle-level body movement martial arts of the yellow grade. As for the attack martial arts, in 3 months, I will enter the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain, so I should choose the martial arts that suits me best and can maximize my strength. After thinking about it, he squatted down and began to choose the most suitable one from these dozens of books. However, just as he squatted down, he saw a book with yellowed cover pages quietly placed in the corner of the lowest shelf in the 4th row. It looked a bit old. The books here have all been refurbished by disciples, so there shouldn't be any books with yellowed cover pages. Lin Chen was stunned, and reached out to take the book with yellowed cover pages from the bottom shelf. The book was a bit old, looking like an antique. There was a lot of dust on the cover pages, which should have been a long time since anyone had turned it over. In addition, the book was very thin, with only a few pages, which was completely different from other martial arts books with dozens of pages or even dozens of pages. Lin Chen was even more curious, and after a glance, he opened the first page of the book. Two big words appeared in front of him, Phantom Sword. Next to these two big words, there were a lot of small words, as well as several pictures of performing mental methods. He patiently read the first page of the book carefully. After half a quarter of an hour, Lin Chen finally raised his head with a look of ecstasy on his face. This sword technique is actually a top-level yellow-grade martial art, that in theory, a top-level yellow-grade martial art should not appear on the first floor of the library. But this martial art was created by an elder who spent his life's efforts when the Tianji Sect was founded. When the elder died, he made a request to the sect master, hoping that this martial art he created could be provided to all disciples of the Tianji Sect for free, and all disciples, whether outer or inner, could practice it. So, the sword technique created by this elder with his life's efforts was passed down. This is how Lin Chen got this sword manual, but because the attack method of this martial art is extremely strange and it is extremely difficult to practice, few disciples have practiced this martial art for thousands of years, and among the disciples who choose to practice, even fewer can practice it successfully. Over time, this phantom sword is almost ignored. This martial arts book is ranked among the top yellow-level martial arts, so it must have its strengths. Other disciples cannot practice it, but that does not mean I cannot practice it. Moreover, this martial arts book is quite similar to the mysterious fist that I practiced in my previous life, so I will practice this sword technique. Lin Chen laughed loudly, picked up the Qingyun step and the magic sword manual, and walked towards the door of the library. Arriving at the door, the old man in white robe saw that Lin Chen chose the phantom sword, and was stunned and said, "Lin Chen, this phantom sword is indeed a top-level Huang-level martial arts, but the difficulty of practicing this sword technique is almost comparable to the low-level Xian-level martial arts. Are you sure you want to choose this martial arts?" Lin Chen nodded slightly. Seeing this, the old man in white robe shook his head and said, "Lin Chen, you have not joined the sect for a long time, so you may not know it. This phantom sword, there were disciples in the sect before, because it is a top-level Huang-level martial arts, but the result was a lot of time and energy. Nothing was gained, and they had to spend time practicing other martial arts. Moreover, you can practice the 7-star chain sword, which does not mean that you can practice this phantom sword." The old man in white robe paused and advised, "I tell you this just to hope that you give up practicing this martial arts to avoid repeating the same mistakes. Do you understand? Thank you for your kindness, elder. I understand what you said, but I don't want to regret it, and I have the confidence to practice this sword technique." Lin Chen smiled and said as usual, although Lin Chen didn't know how difficult it was to practice the phantom sword, he had full confidence in himself. In his previous life, he became a martial arts master at a young age, relying on hard work and his outstanding martial arts talent. Although he traveled to this world, Lin Chen believed that his superior understanding of martial arts would not change at all. No matter how difficult the technique was, he would try it first. The old man in white robe shook his head and sighed, which disciple who practiced this sword technique before was not full of confidence, but still got nothing in the end, but since you have made a choice, I won't say more. Lin Chen knew that the old man in white robe still didn't believe that he could practice the phantom sword, but he didn't want to say more. After thanking him, he turned around and walked out the door, back to the cabin. Lin Chen plunged into the 2 secret books and studied them carefully. Time passed quickly. 3 days later, in the yard, Lin Chen stood quietly holding the fine steel sword. Suddenly, he took a step forward, and the fine steel sword in his hand moved with it, stabbing forward at an extremely fast speed. Gradually, the speed of his sword swinging became faster and faster, and finally several sword shadows appeared in front of him. These sword shadows quickly swept forward and attacked a huge rock with a bang, and the huge rock also shattered. Seeing this, Lin Chen's face was slightly happy. The most powerful thing about this phantom sword is that it attacks at a very fast speed. At a very fast speed, it leaves an afterimage in the air, and the enemy can hardly figure out where the real attack is and when it will appear. This is similar to the mysterious fist I practiced in my previous life. Lin Chen was involved in a wide range of martial arts in his previous life and had some understanding of various martial arts. The attack method of this phantom sword is the same as the mysterious fist. The phantom sword, which is extremely difficult to practice in the eyes of others, seems much simpler in Lin Chen's hands. However, this phantom sword is also quite mysterious. The way its mind works is completely different from ordinary martial arts. It took Lin Chen 3 days to figure out the mystery of the way this mind works and finally practice it. Lin Chen took a breath, put away the sword and stood still. He continued to run forward with his luck. After a breath, he saw his body appear 60 meters away. The great mastery of the Qingyun step can sweep 100 meters. Now I can use the Qingyun step to sweep 60 meters, which is already the minor mastery. The importance of body skills is self-evident. It can be used for both attack and defense, and is a life-saving skill. While Lin Chen was focusing on the study of the illusion sword for the past 3 days, he also did not neglect the practice of the Qingyun step. In 3 days, Lin Chen not only practiced the Qingyun step to a minor success, but also successfully mastered the illusion sword that had stumped countless disciples. With such a speed, there are absolutely few people who can rival him in the entire Tianji Sect's outer sect. Chapter 8: The Efficacy of the Small Tripod. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Chen frowned slightly, but now it is less than 3 months before entering the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain, and my contribution points are only 133 points. With my current strength, I want to complete the journey in 3 months. It may be a bit difficult to raise more than 300 contribution points, not to mention that breaking into the secret realm of Tianluo Mountain requires extraordinary strength. I can't control that much anymore. The top priority is to collect the insufficient contribution points and go to the mission hall early tomorrow morning to pick up the mission. That with his mind made up, Lin Chen continued to practice the first form of the phantom sword in the yard. In the evening, Lin Chen, who had washed himself, sat cross-legged on the bed and looked quietly at the 2 crystal bottles half the size of a palm in his hands. Through the crystal bottles, he could clearly see half a bottle of light green liquid flowing inside. Lin Chen was silent for a moment, then suddenly stretched out his hand to open the cap of one of the bottles. Suddenly, a rather rich and faint fragrance filled the whole room. What a rich spiritual energy, Lin Chen was surprised. Before opening the bottle cap, he expected that it would contain spiritual energy, but he did not expect that the spiritual energy in the essence-building liquid would be so strong. You must know that the entire room was covered with this fragrance at this moment. With every breath, you will feel the spiritual energy being sucked into your belly. Lin Chen thought for a while, opened his mouth and drank lightly, and suddenly a cold liquid, like cold water in winter, slipped into his stomach. After doing this, Lin Chen immediately closed his eyes. The true energy in his body slowly circulated through the heavens according to the Qingming Xianyang Gong, flowing from the dantian to the limbs and bones. Lin Chen felt slightly hot and extremely warm wherever the true energy passed through. The Qingming Xianyang Kung Fu is a high-level Huang-level martial skill. The martial artist can continuously perform the Great Circular Cycle. Every time he performs the Great Circular Cycle, he can absorb a trace of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, turn it into his own use, and convert it into the true energy of the warrior's dantian. As for warriors taking pills to practice, it is simpler than absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to practice. They only need to directly guide the true energy to circulate the heaven and earth to refine the swallowed pills. Only, before Lin Chen started refining the essence-building liquid he swallowed, a strong suction force suddenly came from his mind, quickly absorbing the essence-building liquid he swallowed. What's going on? Lin Chen was shocked by the sudden change. How could the power of sucking come from inside my mind? Lin Chen's eyebrows jumped slightly. He took a deep breath and mobilized his mind to check his mind, but he saw that the small cauldron in his mind was rapidly absorbing the Peiyuan liquid he had swallowed. In less than a moment, Peiyuan liquid, the essence liquid, was completely absorbed. How could this happen? The little cauldron in my mind actually absorbed all the essence-building liquid. For a moment, Lin Chen's expression changed. Xiao Ding sucked away the essence-building liquid he swallowed. Will he also suck up any pills he swallowed in the future? If this is the case, wouldn't he be able to use elixirs to assist his cultivation in the future? The speed of cultivation without the assistance of elixirs is much slower than the speed of cultivation with the assistance of elixirs. Lin Chen's face was a little gloomy, and his mind moved again to the small cauldron in his mind. However, at this time, he saw a small stream of extremely pure spiritual energy suddenly spurting out of the small cauldron. This. Lin Chen's eyes widened, not daring to think too much. Lin Chen quickly used the Qingming Xianyang Kung Fu to quickly refine the spiritual energy emitted by the small cauldron, a great weekly cycle, 2 great weekly cycles. After completing the 6th great cycle, Lin Chen slowly guided the true energy in his body back to his dantian. Lin Chen took a deep breath, and a look of surprise suddenly appeared on his face. It's such a rich and pure spiritual energy. My predecessor took a bottle of cultivating essence liquid before and it was refined in just 12 cycles. And the refining was completed. The amount of spiritual energy emitted by Hua Xiaoding is not large, but it allowed me to perform 6 great cycles. Such rich and pure spiritual energy may only be comparable to the highest quality cultivation liquid. In Lin Chen's memory, a bottle of top-grade Yuanhuiling liquid was already priced out of the market, and the top-grade Yuanhuiling liquid was rare to see in 100 years, but the aura spewed out by the small tripod was comparable to the spiritual energy in the top-grade Yuanhuiling liquid. But, how could Xiaoding suddenly spurt out such rich and pure spiritual energy? Could it be that Xiaoding absorbed the essence-building liquid that I swallowed, and then? Lin Chen pondered for a moment, then suddenly he reached out and picked up a bottle of cultivating essence liquid and took a sip, then continued to sit cross-legged. At the same time, he mobilized his mind and stared at the small tripod in his mind without blinking. A short while later, Lin Chen saw another strong suction force coming from the small cauldron, and in the blink of an eye, the essence-building liquid he had swallowed was absorbed. After a while, a burst of rich and pure spiritual energy suddenly spurted out from the small cauldron. I didn't expect that the little cauldron in my mind could have this effect. Seeing this situation, Lin Chen showed a hint of excitement. Just now, he guessed that Xiaoding absorbed the essence-building liquid that he swallowed and after purification, it spewed out rich and pure spiritual energy. The results of his experiment just now undoubtedly confirmed his guess. After 6 great cycles, Lin Chen's closed eyes suddenly opened. The spiritual energy contained in the Peiyuan liquid purified by Xiaoding is at least dozens of times richer than the unpurified Peiyuan liquid. Lin Chen's eyes burst out with a burst of light. In other words, a bottle of low-grade Peiyuan liquid, after being purified by Xiaoding, it can at least be as effective as a bottle of top-quality cultivating essence liquid. Chapter 9, The Realm of Marrow Refining. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Lin Chen pondered. After a moment, he raised his eyebrows and said to himself, the little cauldron in my mind may have more than this effect. Lin Chen hasn't figured out Xiaoding's secret yet, but he believes that sooner or later he will figure it out. Without thinking too much, Lin Chen immediately closed his eyes and looked inside, happily feeling the true energy flow that had just been purified by the small cauldron and integrated into his dantian. Lin Chen felt it carefully and saw that the true energy in his dantian had grown a lot, and he could even vaguely see traces of true energy entering the bone marrow through the bones. Seeing this situation, Lin Chen felt happy. The body refining realm is divided into 9 levels. The 4th level is bone refining, and the 5th level is marrow refining. The sign of entering the 5th level of body refining realm is the entry of true energy into the marrow. Based on this, I can be regarded as a warrior who has half-stepped into the 5th level of the body refining realm. Maybe, it may not be impossible to break through to the 5th level of the body refining realm tonight. Thinking of this, Lin Chen glanced at the other bottle of essence-building liquid beside him. Suddenly he took a deep breath, grabbed the other bottle of essence-building liquid next to him with a joyful expression, and drank it all with his mouth open. Then, he sat cross-legged, his eyes slightly closed, and became motionless. Time passed by minute. Half an hour later, Lin Chen, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, suddenly burst out with a fierce momentum. A mellower chi than before surged out of his body and turned into a large amount of mist, covering the entire cabin like a sea of clouds. In addition, a large amount of black substance was secreted from his skin, and a kind of itching that was painful to the core, like ants biting at the bone marrow, came out. making his face slightly unnatural. After a while, Lin Chen suddenly opened his eyes, opened his mouth and roared freely, as if he wanted to release the joy in his heart. Breakthrough, 5th level of Body Refining Realm, Marrow Refining Realm. Lin Chen's face was filled with joy. As far as I know, at my stage of cultivation, even a disciple with the best cultivation talent would need at least 1 or 2 months to advance to the first level of cultivation, but I only took 3 days to do it. I have been promoted to 2 levels in a row. If they knew about my cultivation speed, I don't know how surprised they would be. Lin Chen was in a happy mood. He went to the yard and washed his body with cold water, then returned to the hut and fell asleep sweetly. The second day, Lin Chen got up early in the morning, put some necessary supplies into his wallet, and walked towards a small market at the foot of the mountain. Originally, Lin Chen planned to go to the mission hall today to receive missions and earn contribution points. But now that he knew that the small cauldron in his mind could purify the essence of the elixir, he could not waste this effect, so Lin Chen changed his mind and went there first. Go to the market and buy some elixirs for strengthening your foundation and auxiliary skills to improve your cultivation. Fortunately, I got 300 low-grade spiritual stones from Li Chuan and the others, otherwise I might not have the spiritual stones to buy the elixir. Lin Chen thought to himself and quickened his pace. At the same time, in the library halfway up the mountain, with his eyes slightly closed, the white-robed old man guarding the library suddenly opened his eyes and looked at a 14 or 5-year-old girl in front of him with a faint smile. But the girl looked angry, holding a sword in her hand. Seeing the old man in white robe looking over with a faint smile, she pouted and said aggrievedly, "Second grandpa, I don't want to practice this swordsmanship anymore." Yannan, I think this 7-star chain sword is very good. Why don't you want to practice it? The old man in white robe said with a loud laugh when he saw the girl's cute and aggrieved look. Second grandpa, you have never practiced, how do you know that this sword technique is good? And you don't know how difficult this sword technique is to practice. I have been studying and practicing hard every day for more than half a month, but I just haven't mastered the 7th posture. They all doubt whether they can master the 7th move. The girl Yannan snorted in dissatisfaction and said angrily, half a month ago, the old man in white robe handed the 7-star chain sword to the girl. The latter's martial arts talent was not bad. In less than half a month, he learned the first 6 moves of the 7-star chain sword, but the 7th move, but she still failed to practice it. The girl was so embarrassed that she became angry, and then she questioned the old man in white robe. Your current cultivation level is at the early stage of the Tiangang realm, and your martial arts talent is far beyond ordinary people. I originally thought that you should be able to comprehend the 7th form of the 7-star chain sword. However, you don't have to be discouraged. To be honest, little girl like you, I also practiced the 7-star chain sword back then. I was stuck on the 7th form for more than 3 months and could not break through, so I changed to practice other swords. It's law. What? Second grandpa, have you really practiced this sword technique? And failed to master it? The girl was surprised. She knew very well the strength of the white-robed old man in front of her. This sword technique could even stump him. This is not a glorious thing. How could I lie to you, a little girl? The old man in white robe said with a smile on his face. The girl was a little dissatisfied. You can't even practice it, Grandpa second, and you still ask me to practice. Isn't this just a joke on me? That the old man in white robe slowly shook his head. Among the sword techniques of the same level, this 7-star chain sword is quite powerful, so many sword training disciples will choose to try it. However, there are very few people who can master the 7th form. Very little. I thought you, little girl, could master it, so I let you try. But it's no big deal if you fail to master it. There will be sword techniques that are more suitable for you. I guess no one can master this swordsmanship. It's too difficult. The girl pouted, you little girl. The old man in white robe looked at the girl helplessly. A few days ago, I saw an outer disciple who was at the peak of the 4th level of the body refining realm. He not only mastered this sword technique, but also used it to defeat 3 disciples with higher cultivation than him. Chapter 10 Market. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How is it possible? The girl glared and said in disbelief, I haven't even mastered the initial stage of Tiangang realm, but he has mastered it at the peak of the 4th stage of Lianti realm, and defeated 3 disciples with higher cultivation than him. That the old man in white robe nodded. Although the boy has average talent, he is quite determined. He has been practicing the 7-star chain sword for more than a year, and finally succeeded in breaking through a few days ago. However, the boy came to me a few days ago to choose a phantom sword. He was a little too ambitious. Although I don't know how he practiced the 7th sword, I'm afraid there was some luck involved. Now he wants to practice the most difficult phantom sword, which is simply asking for trouble. This may affect his future practice. The old man in white robe shook his head and sighed. The girl shook her head and her eyes turned. Second grandfather, he can practice the 7-star chain sword, so it is not impossible for him to practice the phantom sword. What you said makes sense. The old man in white robe pondered. With that boy's perseverance, it is not necessarily impossible to succeed. Some people may be born to bite the hard bones. Second grandfather, what is the name of this guy you are talking about? The girl asked curiously. His name is Lin Chen. The old man in white robe said with a smile, he has been worshipped in Tianji Sect for more than a year, and he is still only an outer disciple, but I have a feeling that he should not be limited to the outer sect. If he can really practice the phantom sword, he will definitely make a difference in the future. Oh, I know. The girl immediately reached out and picked up the sword after hearing this, and walked quickly out of the door. Seeing this, the old man in white robe smiled and shook his head and said, Yunner, go back and practice hard. Although you failed to practice the 7-star chain sword, it doesn't matter. Your cultivation is still a little too low. I hope you can become a disciple of the younger generation of our Tianji Sect to support the appearance. I know, second grandpa. I'll go to the market first. Goodbye, second grandpa. The girl named Yunner seemed to be a little bit unable to bear the old man's nagging. She said without turning her head and quickened her pace to run down the mountain. The old man in white robe smiled when he heard it. He shook his head and said to himself, Yunner, if she is willing to practice well, with her qualifications and talents, I'm afraid her cultivation would have reached the late stage of Tiangang realm long ago. This girl is just playful. Lin Chen came to the market and saw a bustling crowd. There were countless people shuttling back and forth. Among them were not only disciples of Tianji Sect, but also many casual martial artists. It was very lively. Lin Chen did not look around, but went straight to a shop called Tianqing Danyao Shop. In Lin Chen's memory, this medicine shop has a good reputation and a complete range of medicines. He used to come here often, but he didn't have much money to buy. When he entered the shop, a young maid came to greet him. Seeing Lin Chen, she smiled and said, Sir, our shop has the most suitable qi-gathering pills and Lingyuan pills for the practice of martial artists in the body-refining realm, detoxification pills and golden wound medicines for those who go out on missions, and heart-protecting pills to prevent inner demons. What kind of pills do you need? Lin Chen had already made up his mind. Hearing this, he gently touched the ring in his hand and said, Give me 10 Lingyuan pills, 5 qi-gathering pills, 3 detoxification pills and 3 golden wound medicines each. These pills are the most suitable for his practice at this stage. Lingyuan pills and qi-gathering pills are used to assist in practice, but qi-gathering pills are more effective, and he bought detoxification pills and golden wound medicines to prepare for missions. The maid was stunned when she heard the words. She looked at Lin Chen suspiciously and said hesitantly, Sir, 10 Lingyuan pills are worth 60 low-grade spirit stones, 5 Juki pills are worth 100 low-grade spirit stones, and the detoxification pills and wound medicine are worth 20 low-grade spirit stones. Altogether, it is 180 low-grade spirit stones. Are you sure you want it? Looking at the maid's eyes, Lin Chen was also slightly stunned. Why did the other party seem to be a little hesitant when he came to buy things? However, Lin Chen also looked up and down and immediately understood what the other party meant. Although Lin Chen is a child of a noble family, he is not rich. Because he is obsessed with martial arts, he saves some money for cultivation and does not care about external things, so his clothes look shabby. In addition, his cultivation is not high. He asked for pills worth 180 spirit stones. The maid couldn't help asking one more question, because at first glance, Lin Chen didn't look like someone who could take out such a large amount of spirit stones. Lin Chen didn't care. He waved his hand and took out 200 low-grade spirit stones and placed them on the counter, shining brightly. He smiled and said, "There will be no shortage of spirit stones. Just take them. Also, get me 10 bottles of essence nourishing liquid. Hurry up." 10 bottles of essence nourishing liquid. That when the maid saw the spirit stones that Lin Chen took out, she realized that she had made a mistake. The man in front of her was a rich man. Although she was young, she was also quite experienced. She smiled and said apologetically, "Please wait a moment, sir. I will go get the elixir for you." After that, the maid turned around and trotted to the back to get the elixir. She got a lot of commission for completing this transaction of 200 low-grade spirit stones.